Welcome to the Powercat Podcast, presented by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. Now let's go to the rolling Flint Hills, home of the Cats and Dogs Studio. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the Powercat Podcast. I am Fitz. We're all on camera. We all have our little names. This is fancy, guys. It's fancy. Zach Carlson here in the Cats and Dogs Studio with me. Ryan Gilbert at the Secret Studio, his Aggieville suite, his oasis in the Ville. Ladies, beware. Don't, seriously, beware. We're sponsored by the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. It's right up the street. And after last night's performance by the Kansas State Wildcats, I think we would all probably need to stop in and get something. It was not pretty. It was like Ryan Gilbert sending you a selfie at 2 a.m. It's not pretty.
I don't send you anything at 2 a.m. ever.
I need to apologize to Ryan Gilbert. I got shamed by my own mother for how mean I am to Ryan Gilbert. And I go, but he's a known troublemaker. It's fine, Mom. He deserves this. But she says, I'm too mean to you, Gils. So
always listen to your mother, right?
Yeah, I do, actually. I do. Unless I hang up. Hey, we get into the Fridge. Just go see the people at the Fridge. Say, help me. I watched K-State basketball on Tuesday night, and it'll be like a doctor's visit. They'll give you exactly what you need. Probably tequila after that. This is how it works. We're now on video, so you can watch us do the things we did without video before, and we kicked Gills out of the studio because the smell. And it's the same format, though. You ask the questions at Wabash Station, and by you, I mean our subscribers at Go Powercat. They ask the questions, and then we answer them right here. Everyone gets to hear. Only the VIPs get to ask the questions. Here are your questions from Wabash Station. Zach Carlson is back in reading duties, and I never quite understood why he's back to being the reader, but it's like a visit home after a long time away. His voice is soothing. Soothe us, Zach. Soothe us.
Well, I'm sick, so it's not
that's right.
soothing.
He's also sick, so I'll be sick next week.
Yes. From Call Me T22, share your thoughts on the now released Big 12 football schedule for 2024.
It's weird. And I mean this sincerely, and this is also a compliment to what the entire world observes, that Oklahoma and Texas are, the Big 12. That's what they think. But in their defense, when you look at a schedule without them anywhere on it, either school, it's weird. And it's weird to have schools that just a few years ago you were not associated with as an institution. Half this conference next season will be different from a year ago. It's insane. It's wild. I look at this schedule and there's so many unknown factors. You know what I mean? When you go through the Big 12, you kind of know what you're experiencing with all these schools and all these teams. You know what they're about, how, but now you've just got all these new teams. Utah's probably pretty good, but I don't know what to do with Arizona or Colorado. I still think Arizona State's going to stink, but, and then you start looking at the schedule and you're like, I don't see any games that are losses, absolute. You're going to go to Oklahoma. Well, K-State always won there. That's a horrible example. You're going to go to this team and it's really hard to win there. I see a bunch of games that K-State can win, and we'll just see where it takes them. What I also see is just a horrendous middle of the schedule. My DD today was about it. They have 2 home games from basically the middle of September until the middle of November. 2 out of 8 weeks. There's 2 bye weeks in there. There's 4 road games. And it is a 5 road game year for Kansas State, so that's always tougher. But the way the Big 12 lined it up, wow. If K-State is doing well after that and they come home to play 2 out of 3 at home at the end, they're in really good shape. But I'm not a big fan of the crappy weather games fans will experience. And then they only have 6 home games this year, which is an oddity. And one of them might be on Friday. That's still to be decided on that Arizona game. And the non-conference, it might be Friday. And if they put Friday on there as a possibility, I got to believe it's going to be Friday. That's kind of what it seems like to me. So I'm not overwhelmed by the schedule. I'm just disappointed in how it lines up for the fans.
I'm surprised that with 2 bye weeks for everybody this year, that there's only 2 possibilities in the entire conference schedule of a Thursday night game. There were a lot of Thursday/Friday
That's crazy.
or Friday/Saturday. There are only 2 Thursday, Friday, Saturday games.
I would have sworn we were going to play Big 12 games on Thursday on the regular.
I mean, there's so much inventory. I'm surprised that, I mean, even the amount of Friday/Saturday slashes, there weren't very many of those. I would expect at least 1 or 2, at least at a minimum. I'd expect 1 weekday conference game a week
Per team.
Yeah,
I agree.
or at least per team, but also each week of the conference schedule. I'd expect a midweek
totally
game.
agree.
So especially when it's a 2 bye week season, it makes sense that somebody would play some.
Yeah, I was kind of baffled by some of the things I saw. But Gills?
Oh, just that tough schedule in the middle of the season. It's going to be. I don't want to say brutal, but if K-State can come out of that one clean, then you're really starting to think about Big 12 title and some higher aspirations. Obviously, you got to win those games first, but you can complain about having a tough stretch like that, but also if you can come out of that in a good position, then you are set up well for a nice run at the end of the season when the schedule lightens up. So, I think it's, you already knew who you were playing. You already knew which games were at home and away and stuff like that. So not a whole lot changes in my mind. Obviously, that middle portion, though, is going to be tough.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm really excited about next year. There's a lot of new destinations, a lot of fun places. It's the mountain tour, as I mentioned. Go to Provo, you go to Boulder and Morgantown. You don't go to Tucson, which is the 4th mountain. It's not the biggest of the mountains either. It's a little mountain.
Arizona State's close too.
Arizona State.
There's some mountains there.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, but anyhow,
Close.
I mean the 3 stadiums nestled in the mountains. Yeah. I like the word nestled. It's a good word. Use it.
Next question's from Daddy Longlegs. What is the best Wildcat road trip this fall? New Orleans, Provo, Boulder, somewhere else?
I would have said New Orleans pre-Sugar Bowl. I just the joy of K-Staters in New Orleans, like K-Staters in Vegas. It made my heart good. So I don't know how many people will go after just going, a year and a half prior. But I'd say that. But I think Provo, it's completely new. It is one of the most scenic, iconic views in all of college football. And it comes early too. It's you're not going to run into snow probably with Provo because it's a September game. It's the first Big 12 game because Arizona is a non-conference game. So I'm excited about Provo. I might actually go on that one as I limit the number of trips I go on. But I've heard so many wonderful things about the entire Provo experience and how the fans are and the stadium is. And I really want to go to that one.
I'm surprised that K-State never got out of that Tulane trip, or at least moved it to a different year.
Right. With this whole conference.
I mean, they scheduled this years in advance, knowing that this, before conference realignment, this was going to be a 5 road game conference year. It's an even numbered year. You have 5 conference games. That's how it's been since 2010 or 2011, whenever they redid the conference schedule, once they lost teams and everybody went round robin. So that's the biggest surprise. And if you're mad about the schedule, I think that's probably the thing that I'm most mad at, I guess, if you're a K-State fan, is you have 5 conference games and you have this game at Tulane. Yes, it sucks that K-State starts on the road for conference play again. I think you got to pretend in your head Arizona's a conference game and you get it at home. I think that's the only consolation there. But I think if you look at the schedule and if you're most frustrated by something, it's not the 10 weeks where you only have 2 Saturday home games in good weather. I think you should have gotten out of that New Orleans game, that Tulane game, and moved it to a different year to get, a similar opponent that you can bring home. I think that there was, especially with Colorado coming to the conference, getting out of that series, I think there were opportunities to take care of this Tulane problem. But like you said, I think before, the Sugar Bowl, I think New Orleans definitely would have been been the
Right.
spot. But, once you've been once, in less than 24 months, I don't think you need to go again. So I think that Boulder's probably going to be the one that the most K-State fans will try to get to. But I think Provo's, like you said, probably the best road trip of the bunch.
Gills?
You guys know my answer here, right?
Yeah.
Without question.
Whatever.
Any trip to Pittsburgh, even if
are
you're not
you, a fake Yinzer? What is it?
Yeah, he's a fake Yinzer.
Yinzer. You're fake.
born
You're
and
not a
raised.
Yinzer. You're a pretenser.
That's all I've got to say. Any opportunity you get to go out there, it's a great opportunity.
It's a cool schedule. Let's go over it real quick.
UT Martin.
Yeah, UT Martin, Tulane, Arizona. Then you open Big 12 play at BYU. You come home for Oklahoma State on September 28th. Okay, that's your first Big 12 home game, technically. And then you have an off week before you go on the road for Colorado and West Virginia. And then you come home and play host to Kansas and on October 26th. So you've gone basically a month from September 28th to October 26th between home games. And then you've got, is there another off week in there somewhere?
Yeah, it's October 5th and then November 9th are your bye weeks.
Yeah, I'm looking right past it. My phone keeps going to sleep. Then you go to Houston on the November 2nd before that bye week. So you have now played 4 out of 6 on the road with 2 bye weeks, 2 home games in 2 months. It's weird. And then, of course, you close it out. You got Arizona State, Cincinnati coming in November. And then you go to Iowa State. And the governor of Iowa has promised me lovely weather. But it's Iowa, so they might think a blizzard is lovely. They're people of the North. I don't understand it. They play well in snow. I don't know if you knew that.
This happened last year, didn't it? With K-State, I think they had UCF at home after the Missouri game, right? But there was a bye week, and then there were 2 road games. Like, it was a long time. I think K-State had like 1 home game in a X number of day stretch. So this is like the second year in a row, Fitz, that this has kind of happened for K-State.
I think it's like the day after the Arizona game all the way to the day before the KU game. I think it's like 45 days or something.
I think the last time, if I recall this right, one of the last times we had the 2-bye calendar alignment. And then,
2019 was the last time.
Okay, so
then 2016 had it, but also 2016 wasn't the result of the calendar. It was the result of there was no championship game, and the Big 12 decided to play all of their final games on championship game Saturday.
There was one season where K-State had 2 bye weeks and 2 Thursday games. So I had 4 Saturdays in football season where I could sit around and watch football.
It was 2014.
Glorious. Yeah. That's not going to happen this year as much, but I do I like the schedule.
You can get 3 if they put that game on a Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's great. Then the Friday night. So K-State fans would only have 5 Saturday games and a Friday night game. Yeesh. Oh, well. The games are winnable. That's the important part.
Yeah. Brings up the next question from Came to Elevate. Is this the weakest home football schedule in the last 35 years since Bill Snyder took over?
Yeah, I mean, if you had Oklahoma coming in, it made it better. Texas coming in, it made it better. And even when TCU's good or someone else is good, the TV networks aren't going to react that way because they're like trained dogs. Oklahoma, it's just kind of they just put those on. I love the graphic that popped up about the top rated teams or these blue blood teams that get the highest ratings. I'm like, yeah, because you're on ABC, CBS, whatever other Fox, ESPN, the main. Yeah, of course you get better ratings. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But it's winnable. I'm not going to call it weak because I don't know what some of these teams are going to be about. I don't know what Arizona is going to come in here with. Tennessee Martin, they're the Skyhawks, and I fear the Skyhawks more because the Hawks that swim and just run aren't nearly as scary, but the Sky ones are scary. And then it just feels so foreign, this schedule, all these teams. I mean, I just mentioned, and then you close out the Big 12 schedule with Arizona State and Cincinnati. Huh? I mean, it's going to take some getting used to, and it's going to take a while for us all to, understand that Utah's, one of the big boys. Kansas State's one of the big boys. Oklahoma State's one of the big. UC, whoever it is, when those teams surface, then we'll start associating tougher games with them. But this is all a fresh slate.
I'll make a counterpoint. This is one of the hardest and toughest conference schedules. And I'm going to include Arizona in that. You have Arizona, the Alamo Bowl champs. They beat Oklahoma.
Right.
You have Oklahoma State, Big 12 championship game participant.
They sort of.
You have Kansas, who is up. It's not the Kansas of old. You look at, previous schedules, that's a win you can circle on your calendar. Granted, yes, it's in Manhattan this year, but it wasn't like last year's game was easy. And that's going to be the theme.
Do you think fans will be a little stoked after a month with no home games to have Kansas?
They're going to be excited. I think they will be quite excited after 4 weeks off. But you look at those first 3 games, those are very good opponents.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, you look at the back end, Arizona State, Cincinnati, start off with UT Martin, an FCS school. There are some bad teams on here, but I would argue that playing Arizona, Oklahoma State, and KU at home, it's a favorable draw for K-State, but those are certainly tough games. And if those were reversed, I don't know if K-State wins those games.
Agreed. Any thoughts over there, Gills? Anything?
I got 2 words, Fitz. You know what they are?
I'm ugly.
I agree.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You are ugly, though. Yeah.
I'm aware of that. That's why I'm wearing this to cover up the sides of my face. The headphones make me more attractive.
Last question of the first half is from Kat in Colo.
I think this is a K-State fan in Colo.
I'm going to guess that he or she will go to the Boulder game. That's my guess. I think they're probably interested.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why K-State has 2 bye weeks in this year's schedule? Is that true of all conference teams? And is this a good change overall?
Zach, explain it.
I did explain it a little earlier, but essentially when you have an early Labor Day, so on the 1st or 2nd, and then
it just really screws up my fashion.
When you like wearing white a lot?
I know. I got white shoes I like to wear.
So you have an early Labor Day, usually the 1st or 2nd, and that means that the first weekend of December is going to be that Saturday is going to be the 6th or 7th, essentially. So it adds in an extra week into the calendar every 4 or 5 years. I think 2024 is definitely there. I believe 2025 will also have a similar setup to where there's probably going to be 2 bye weeks. But for the 3 or 4 other years between these instances, I think it's 2019 was the last time. I didn't look at 2020, but I would be fairly certain that 2020, it's probably maybe not certain, but 50-50 that 2020 probably would have been a 2 bye week year. It was they had 3, but they only played 10 games. But anyway, essentially it's just the way the calendar works and how conference championship games are scheduled. Maybe the NCAA will move up, week 1 to what week 0 is now. I think they probably should. I think everybody should be allowed to play on week 0. So everybody can get a second bye week. I think that I would prefer that. I think most teams would prefer that.
Wouldn't it be better for the players?
Yeah, better for the players. I mean, especially if you are expecting the players, from the top 12 teams in the country to play 2 additional games potentially than what the national champion has to play today. I think that you're going to want to see some additional, lengthening of if you're going to lengthen the season on the back end, I think you should lengthen it on the front end. That way you can have an extra period of rest. But I think that seasons with 2 bye weeks are good for college football. But is this a good change, bad change? It's just what happens. Yeah. It's just how the calendar worked.
So, question from Gills for Zach.
Okay.
Is this intertwined with because I remember when I was in college and stuff, March Madness being on spring break or the Big 12 tournament was spring break? Is this all the same?
Similar thing. Like this year, there's a bye week in basketball, which has been rare. I guess they did get rid of the SEC Challenge, so that freed up an open
Thank God.
game day, which is probably nice. But yes, the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament are a week later than normal, but also the calendar does have to reset for that too. You can't just keep having it on the same, dates and move it up 2 days. At a certain point, the calendar resets and it goes back to, the third week or whatever the technical start date is. But just kind of a weird year, 2024, having extra stuff. And we get a February 29th.
We get it is leap year.
It is a leap year. So happy birthday to all those 6-year-olds.
Do you know we're supposed to have 13 months?
24.
That they change the calendar at some point, and there's supposed to be 13 months.
Maybe.
And this is what I was told. Yeah, I was on that TikToker, where everything's true. And there's supposed to be 13 months, and if you do 13 divided by 20 or whatever, you end up with one extra day, and that's supposed to be Christmas. It's not in a month. It's supposed to stand alone. This is what I learned from the TikToker. I also learned that aliens you might be an alien.
Huh.
And I think Gills is a lizard person. Let's see, that's believable. That's it for the first half of the Powercat podcast. It's a questions podcast, but we've kind of gotten away from those brandings and we're just doing the Powercat podcast now. It's fancy, but we are sponsored by the Fridge. And let's take a break right now and hear from our sponsors.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Please visit the Fridge Wholesale Liquor, located at the corner of Claflin and Westport Road in Manhattan, Kansas.
Welcome back to the show. Let's return to the Cats and Dogs studio.
We are back. I forgot to play the music. This is just too much for me. I can't.
You need a board op, Fitz.
I know.
You need to hire one.
He really does.
These fancy guys like at WIBW and those big time things, they got board ops. They got someone running the show. We're supposed to do it all. Is this music going to fade out like I planned? Oh, it did. Look at that. That's fancy.
Every time I hear Cats and Dogs Studio, I think of the Nickelodeon show from the late 90s, early 2000s called Cat Dog.
Cat Dog.
Cat Dog. Was it
about Daphne?
It was a one animal. One end was a cat, one end was a dog.
So like
Cat
Willie dog. Wildcat, but with a dog instead of a human.
For legs, yeah. Like there's no rear end. It is 2 heads.
I got
2 animals. Four legs. There is no bottom.
There's no butt.
There's no butt.
How does one poop? That's immediately what I think.
It was a question that was not answered.
It can't be answered.
Yeah. I'm sure you could find that on TikTok, right, Fitz? You're probably on that.
Yeah. I'll get to the
TikTok
I
already.
like to call it TikToker because it makes it sound more action based. But yeah, I have to look that up. But one of my pals, Robbie, who now does stuff for another podcast, the Locked On one. He helps out with Drake. If you're not watching the Locked On Big 12, Drake's awesome. He's also the play-by-play voice of the Savannah Bananas. Anyhow, Robbie took Willie to task that it's his least favorite mascot because it doesn't make sense that we exclude the best parts of the cat and make them human. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Isn't the face of the cat the most important part? No, he thinks it's something else. And Robbie apparently likes cat butts and will not lie.
Willie should have furry arms, furry legs, and a tail. I'm on the record of saying that. Willie should have a tail.
I wish we could do surveys on the podcast. Maybe we can. I see people doing surveys on the YouTube machine, but I would like, maybe we should just do it on our message board where it's VIP only.
Nobody would agree with me.
I want to know, is this a radical stand like you're in the 10% or fewer minority, or is there like a secret stash of K-Staters like at 40% are like, yeah, Willie needs a whole body, and we don't know about it? Isn't Riley part of that gang?
I don't know. I don't know what Danger Cat.
I'm sure he's got a strong opinion one way or another.
Yes, he does. He always has strong opinions, and I am of strong opinion that you should go to the Fridge Wholesale Liquor. Get your cat butts into the fridge whenever you're in town. And I don't know when that'll be next. Maybe Monday night against Kansas, right there in the octagon of doom. But get to the Fridge. They're wonderful people. Great selection, great service. The Fridge Wholesale Liquor at the corner of this or that in the town in which we live. And on with the podcast. Back to Zach Carlson with your questions from Wabash Station.
First question is from Fervent Purple. K-State couldn't score 20 points in a half of basketball. Discuss.
They scored 12 in the second half against Nebraska. I point this out so that you understand it could have been worse. It was horrible. It was horrendous. They couldn't even get into offense. This wasn't because K-State couldn't hit shots. They couldn't take good shots because Oklahoma's defense was that good, and Kansas State was not prepared to handle it. They don't have a true point guard, and it is now on full blast for everyone to see. They got to figure this out, or this is going to be repeated in almost every Big 12 game in which the coach can get his players to defend the same way now Houston and Oklahoma have. They couldn't run offense for almost the entire first half. It was really painful.
Zach, go ahead.
I don't have anything. I was waiting on you.
I mean, I just don't even know where to start. There's no question. It says discuss. Like there's a lot of issues, right, going on with K-State basketball. You lose 3 in a row, but I think some perspective is needed here. 2 of those 3 came away from home. And so there's no real shame in losing to Iowa State or Houston, in my opinion. Now, that loss on Tuesday to Oklahoma, that was bad. You know, the offense was terrible. And I've been one of the biggest Tyler Perry critics out there. But, I mean, TP was the guy that kept K-State in that game in the second half. And so, you know, against Houston, it was Cam Carter, right? He kind of kept K-State afloat for a while, even if it was a really ugly game. Am I here? You guys see me? You hear me? Yeah, I went away for a sec.
That's best.
Has obviously shown his abilities to score, so they've got the pieces there. It's just really challenging, I think. I don't know if this is on the staff. I know Jerome Tang would tell you that it is on his staff. He took all the blame after that loss against Oklahoma. He took all the blame, and so I don't know if it's really truly on the staff or these players just need to step up. But I mean, the guys are there, the scorers are there. It's just a matter of getting, you know, 2 of those 3 on any given night to have a good night. If all 3 of them are playing well and scoring, okay, you're going to be tough to beat. But obviously that hasn't been the case. OU's a strong defensive team. Houston is a dang good defensive team, probably the best in the country. Iowa State is probably one of the more aggressive defensive teams, you know, forcing so many turnovers. And so, you know, the Big 12 is tough, and this is kind of the reality of this league. But you know, defensively, going up against strong defensive teams, I think that's one of the bigger weaknesses of this team. And so I don't want to hit the panic button too much. I mean, I guess you can hit it, right? But I'm not hitting it over and over again. And neither is Jerome Tang. He mentioned that again after the Oklahoma game, that they're 4-4. And obviously they've lost 3 in a row. They were 4-1. You moved to 4-4, right? So there is panic. If K-State was, you know, 1-4, right? And they moved to 4-4, right? K-State fans would be ecstatic after a 3-game winning streak. And so it's just the timing of when these losses have happened. To be 500 in the best league in America, there's no shame in that. And so obviously you've got to get things turned around. I mean, their stock is plummeting right now. But guys, if I were to tell you this, that K-State would not have Naquan Tomlin or Quez Glover play in a single game all season long, and they'd be 500 of the Big 12, I think we'd take that, especially when you lose Marquise Noel, Keontae Johnson. You know, you lose so much from last season. I think Naquan Tomlin's departure is huge because he was in the works to be a superstar, 100%. But the Quez Glover, Zach, goodness,
sorry, I'm sick.
I think Quez Glover's though is a little exaggerated just because of the struggles of Tyler Perry, right? If Tyler Perry was the point guard that we thought he was going to be, and he was the best shooter in America that we were told he was going to be, we wouldn't really be putting much of a focus on Quez Glover's absence. But since Perry has struggled, this team doesn't have a real point guard, and Day-Day Ames is like the only guy that can really run the point for this team. That's why people are kind of so, I guess, caught up in Quez Glover. But you guys got to remember that he didn't get to Manhattan like a month before the season or 2 months before the season. Like, he wasn't necessarily in the works for this offense throughout the entire offseason. They went to a 5-out system to cater to bigs, not the guards like Quez Glover. And so, yeah, you'd love to have like RJ Jones run the point, but he's a freshman. Dorian Finister, I think he's kind of hit his ceiling. He's coming back down to earth after that run he had to start Big 12 play. So by and large, taking a step back. I know that was a lot, but they're 4-4. And I think that's the biggest takeaway is, yes, this team needs to get better 100%. But, Jerome Tang said it before Big 12 play, right? Win 9 games and you're going to get in the NCAA tournament in his mind, right? And so 5 more wins, plenty of quadrant 1 opportunities out there. The season's not over, but I'm not going to dismiss the fact that K-State has to turn this around. Jerome Tang shot it down, that his team is in a good spot, which is true, but you've got to be smart and look at the last 3 games. They've been really, really ugly.
Yeah, they have been. I'm going to panic if they lose Saturday at Oklahoma State, because then they come home Monday and play Kansas. And I said when this 7-game span started, we're 3 games into that now, that if Kansas State can go 2-5, it's okay. They're at 500 coming out of this incredible stretch. But I thought Oklahoma would be one that they might win. So now the pressure's on them. They've got to go to Stillwater and get that road game back, because they now just surrendered their West Virginia win on the road by losing at home. They need to get it back, come home and play Kansas and see what happens. Every game's self-contained. So I don't think beating Oklahoma State is essential to beating Kansas, which is so weird, but that's the way this conference rolls. I think if they can beat Oklahoma State, it might enhance their opportunities, build their confidence back going into Kansas. But I've seen K-State get up for a Kansas game when they've been playing like trash. But, getting that 1 win, ending this streak at 3, losing streak, instead of letting it get to 4 before you play Kansas, I think it would be pretty healthy for the psyche.
I think it's frustrating the last 3 games, watching them, seeing K-State struggle. But at the same time, these are 3 really good basketball teams. They're all in the top 25. They're all ranked. I mean, that was the reality going into this little 7-game stretch that we talked about. I think only 1 team wasn't ranked, and that's Oklahoma State. Sorry.
Right.
So, you've got to go on Saturday to Stillwater and get that win back. But, we were a little optimistic last week. We wanted to see how things went at Iowa State and Houston. If you can go 1-1 last week, you feel really good. But now the opposite's true.
Yep.
We talked about, the 2-5 being a reality. You got to hope that that's still the case, but you got to go out and find another win somewhere, unfortunately.
I mean, TJ Otzelberger, with everything that's gone on, shoving that aside, he's still a solid coach in the Big 12, right?
Yeah.
Kelvin Sampson's a top 10, maybe top 5 coach in the country.
Yeah, I agree.
And then Porter Moser, guys, I thought he was going to lose his job. Like after last season, me and Zach were down there in Norman. There was just no life, no energy in that, Lloyd Noble Center. Kellis Robinette asked him 2 questions post game, and that was it. So it was very short, and nobody else had anything to ask him. But
no media traveled with Oklahoma.
It was crazy. Isn't that insane for a top 25 team for a 4 or 5 hour drive up north? But from what we heard from him, I was very I thought I was like, okay, this guy's a quality coach. He mentioned the defensive effort, locking in for 40 minutes, and that's why really Oklahoma won that game. And I can't remember the specifics. Do you guys remember one of the OU players went down and scored, was chirping, got a technical, and then one of his teammates was up in his face. What are you doing, man? Like, you just cost us, now they're going to go get free throws. That's the culture. That's a sign of a good team with good chemistry. One guy messes up, they're going to be held accountable. And so that is the reality of the Big 12. You're facing these good teams, so you can't really escape it. But it does give you some perspective that K-State did lose to 3 very good teams.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch. I mean, you mentioned Kelvin Sampson, but Porter Moser too has been into a Final Four. I think
yes.
Otzelberger watched one on TV once. No, look, he's a great coach, man. That the type of defense they play is really impressive. And if they can get away with some of the body contact, which Oklahoma did last night, then it's incredibly effective. The thing I liked about Houston, though, as we talk about the defense here, is they seem to do a lot of the defending without the kind of fouling that you often see. They were just like there. I mean, they were just everywhere. It was kind of creepy. I think they have magic powers. And that's not allowed. You can't use magic in college basketball. It's a rule. It's a rule.
Porter Moser went to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Who'd they beat to get there?
I don't want to talk about it. I don't.
Sorry, had to do it.
It's not. Why do you do that? You're part of a K-State podcast, and you just like bear the wounds of the fan base right here on the podcast, which now is on video, so everyone gets to see your evil skills.
Next question is from Get Off the Schneid. Are there actually any dudes on this basketball roster? And then he puts dudes in quotes as.
I see what you're doing there. There's a lot of dudes. They're just not ready to be dudes. I think the young guys are going to be dudes. I think Cam Carter's a dude. He's just got to work on his ball handling. By God, Cam, please spend your offseason working on your handle. You just got to, man. Yeah, it's not what we thought it would be. But as Ryan Gilbert said, when you start the season and, two of the guys that you think are going to be in your main 6-7 man rotation suddenly aren't there, including a potential all Big 12 type player. And I'm not going to say his name, but it's Naquan. It just makes it really difficult. And they've done a good job overcoming it. But as I said on my post-game talk, the Big 12 isn't just competitive. They're incredible coaches, and all of your weaknesses get just exposed. And that's what's happened at K-State. Now they have to answer and find a solution to some of these weaknesses and overcome it. Or this is going to be what they do this season, just a total nosedive.
I mean, a lot of what sports are just copying what you see on tape from what another team did well, right? And so now that K-State's, I feel like this is the bottom. You would hope this is the bottom, that now this staff can look and say, okay, this is what's happening. Now none of us are smart enough to realize those nuances, the X's and O's, all those schematics, but I'm sure that Rodney Perry and Urich and all these, they're gonna tune in on some of these things. So you bring up a good point, Fitz, but this team does not have Marquise Noel or Keontae Johnson. Those guys were dudes, like in their DNA, especially just with Marquise being a point guard. Like, I don't know if you guys believe in God or whatever, but Marquise Noel was born to be a point guard, right? He is just so natural at playing that position. K-State doesn't necessarily have any of those guys that are natural at doing what they do, right? Cam's a great scorer and all this, and now you can bring up positives, but Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson were dudes, and that's where K-State's struggling right now. I think this coaching staff tried to instill in Tyler Perry that he is a dude. He's a great player. He can score. Absolutely. But he's just not that guy. He's not Marquise Noel. I think you look at him, if you're TP and you watch Noel last year, okay, I can come in and be this guy. It's tough to be Marquise Noel and Keontae Johnson, who are now in the NBA next up All-Star game, however that works, right? Well, go ahead, Fitz.
Look, you had two dudes last year, and they kind of amplified each other. I mean, they were better as individuals because of the pairing. And I feel like if Arthur Kaluma had another dude out there, because he's a dude, to me, he's a dude, but he needs help.
Sure.
He's not one of those guys that can just go do it on his own. If the defense wants to take away something from him, they can still. He's incredibly athletic, but if he had someone that could create like Marquise around him, I can't imagine how good he'd be. So, just the lack of a true point guard has turned into just an incredible Achilles heel for this team.
I think there's dudes, but is there any leaders?
Yeah.
I don't know who the leader of this team is right now. You want to say it's Tyler Perry, but you look at some of the decisions he makes out on the court, and they're just not what you'd expect a leader to do.
Bingo.
I think Arthur Kaluma should probably be that leader, but he just seems not like he doesn't want to do it, but he just, there's no ownership, I guess.
I agree.
I feel like he could take it and be the leader, own everything, make this team his, but he doesn't. He has the skills to be that guy for K-State. I just don't know what's holding him back there. It could be Cam Carter if he wanted to, game in, game out, like you said, work on his handle, do other stuff, but it doesn't feel like there is a guy on this team that wants to own this team. Everybody's there, maybe this is, what the coaching staff's told them. We've got dudes. Everybody thinks they're a dude, but nobody is the dude. So I don't know what needs to change over the next few games, but I think it's somebody needs to be the leader.
Can you imagine if my dogs were in the studio with us right now? Dude would think we're doing a whole segment on him, and he'd be so confused because he's a dog, and dogs don't typically listen to podcasts. That's just a little scientific fact I threw in.
To back up your point, Zach, Will McNair played 10 minutes against Oklahoma, and Jerome Tang mentioned post game that he didn't think he was locked in, and I would agree with that. I think it was the first or second, maybe third possession of the game. McNair just kind of fumbled a ball away, and I was like, all right, that's kind of how this night's going to go for him. And Tang and his staff realized that. Now, Tang did take blame, like I mentioned earlier, for the loss. He said it was on him for not having these players locked in. But to what Zach said, like, that's a sign of, like, if Barry Brown was in charge of this team, Will McNair would have been locked in, right? Am I wrong? Like,
oh, you're not
right.
Leader in the locker room, that doesn't happen. When you have a dude, that alpha, you're not going to have guys that are not locked in. And so obviously that when you don't have a Barry Brown, your locker room gets exploded, right? And so I'm not blaming Tang for not having like that leader. But Will McNair, I think, is a really good example of that. Now, again, Tang took blame for it, for not having him locked in. But I think that kind of tells you all you need to know when he plays 10 minutes. But just back to the previous point, though, you got to play with some swagger, right? You got to play with confidence. I think Desi Sills is a perfect example of that from last year, being a dude. He was not the most gifted player in the world, but he can go out and score. And he was so fearless. I remember in Kansas City against TCU in the Big 12 tournament, he had like 7 or 8 blocks. You just don't see like Dorian Finister playing with that. He's passing up open shots. Not everybody on the roster is being timid and shy, but you've got to be aggressive. And that's part of being a dude, is just going out and getting your own. And so that's where this team, again, is just kind of lacking right now. You got to be, if you want to be a dude, but you can't overdo it, right? Tyler Perry, I think, has pushed too much at times this season. And then I think a little recently he stepped back and wasn't aggressive enough. I think he was good against Oklahoma, finding that balance, but you've got to have that aggressiveness, but you also can't overdo it and just force up prayers like we've seen Tyler Perry do. But also credit where it's due, TP was solid against OU, finding his good shots.
Once he got going in the second half, first half, he couldn't even get into offense. And he's just got a horrible habit of, if they're running down the shot clock, of trying to engage the offense way too late. At least once a game, he'll get himself in a position where he's got to just throw something up that isn't even a real shot, or he dumps it off to a teammate who gets the turnover for a shot clock violation because he catches the ball like Arthur Kaluma did last night with about 0.7 on the shot clock. I mean, these are some bad habits that he's got to clean up if this team wants to win close games.
And I feel like there's too much variance in the rotation right now, especially this late in the season. You usually know who you have for your guys, but you're going games where Dorian plays a lot, Caleb Rich doesn't play a lot, or maybe he plays a little bit more. You have Taj Manning going in, Terrell Colbert. Like it feels like the coaching staff doesn't know who the dudes are too. Like it feels like they're just throwing stuff at the wall to seeing what sticks. Like I think that that's kind of Tang's point. I think saying this is on me. I think that they're realizing we don't have a set rotation right now of what works. By this point, I think 8 guys, 9 guys maybe were playing regularly last year. Like Tyke Green really wasn't a factor for the most part. He might play a few minutes here and there, but coming to tournament time, he really wasn't playing.
He was Keontae's backup, pretty much.
Yeah, like he, that's the type of guy where I don't know who the comparison would be this year, for this team, but it just feels like there's too many guys on the bench. I would love them all to play well when they come in, but there's just so much variance. You don't know what you're going to get when K-State struggles. And maybe there's an X's and O's thing that I'm just not picking up on, but generally your guys are your guys. Yep. And you can go ask them, hey, we need 8 points and 4 boards from you off the bench in 20 minutes. Like, there should be some benchmarks there, no pun intended, for your bench guys, of saying, hey, we expect this of you each and every night. And it feels like K-State's still trying to find out too much about themselves almost halfway into conference play.
I agree with all that. This is just such a frustrating state they're in, because so much of it isn't of their own making. They flat got beat on some recruits, some transfer portal guys, and then you lose the transfer portal guy you think is going to help with your guard situation.
Again, Zach, you mentioned you don't know who's going to step up off the bench, right? Like last year, Desi Sills, before he was inserted into the starting lineup, was like the sixth man that you could count on game in and game out to give you that energy, that boost. That was, part of this team's identity, right? And you just don't have that. Some games, like early on in the year, it was Day-Day Ames. To start off Big 12 play, Dorian Finister was that guy. Taj Manning hit a three. And it's just, those are great to get those contributions, but finding that consistency in your lineups, it's January 31st right now as we're recording this, right? You've got to, I think Kellis Robinette asked him like the second game of the year when this was happening, when are you going to start to, figure out your lineups and what you like and what you don't? And Tang said, you'll figure it out. Like once you start to see that answer will answer itself, right?
It hasn't.
I don't think we've seen that yet, guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Next question is from Cat in KC.
I bet he's from Kansas City.
He's probably from Kansas City. How many more performances before the fans stop coming?
Oh, they're nowhere close to that. Now, if Kansas comes in on Monday night and absolutely destroys K-State, it humiliates them, that could have an impact. But there's so few games left at home this season where they're down. I don't even know. I can't math it out.
There's 5 home games.
There are 5 more?
KU.
That's good enough for me. I'll trust you at 5.
KU, TCU, BYU.
Yeah, they're at 4-4 because they've played 4 on the road, 4 at home, right? So yeah, these fans aren't giving up, but I did appreciate that Jerome Tang started his radio show last night with an apology, because it was a good crowd. There was a lot of people there, and from the get-go, K-State wasn't ready. The crowd was ready, but the team just didn't lock in and do anything effective for the first almost 10 minutes of the game. How they were even in the game at one point in the second half remains a minor miracle, but they spent so much energy trying to catch up. But the second something went wrong in that run, Oklahoma took back over. It was a forgetful night, let's put it that way, or a memorable night, depending on how you want to look at this.
Gills?
Nothing.
Nothing.
See, Gills, we expect you to perform. Yeah, you're on a podcast as a basketball guy. Do it.
I don't want to say I don't want to entertain this question because it's valid, right? That was ugly against Oklahoma. The game against Nebraska was ugly. And so I get the question, but we're not there yet. Like you said, Fitz, you kind of hit it on the head. Especially with there's only 5 home games left, right? There's, with everything that Jerome Tang has done, and I've always said this, whether it was when there was 2 players that stuck around from Bruce Weber's staff and everyone's like, what the heck's going on here, to, last year, K-State lost 4 out of 5 in Big 12 play. Everybody thought the world was ending. Jerome Tang has earned our trust as a head coach that he's going to figure things out. And I would highly assume that the K-State fan base, the students, share that opinion with me, that this little funk that they're in right now is something they can snap out of. So, I would expect a rocking Bramlage Coliseum on, is it Monday, right, against KU. I think it's, we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
I think for, as great as Jerome Tang has been over the last 18 months, almost 2 years now, fans have loved him. But at the same time, the fans don't come to the games to watch Jerome Tang. They come to watch the players. And kind of like what we've talked about, there's guys, there's no real leader, there's no real star, I think, right now that the fans can connect to. I think Tyler Perry should be that player right now. You've got, like we've said, Cam, Arthur, Tyler. Those guys need to play well. If K-State's losing games and there's no quote unquote superstar, a leader that's going out every night, putting on good performances, it's hard to, I feel like at this point in the season, this is one of the, I don't want to say worst teams K-State's had, but just hard to watch as a fan. There's no real connection to like last year, you had Marquise, you had Keontae. Like you could buy into those guys and watch them night in, night out, knowing that they're going to perform. You can't say the same thing about this team. And I think that's where you lose interest, is just you don't know what you're going to get. And, I think that's going to affect fan attendance if K-State keeps, sliding here. But, we've talked about this tough stretch. K-State needs to stick it out. I think they will stick it out. But, that TCU game, that BYU game, I don't know what the fan attendance is going to be like if K-State is still sitting on 4 games, 4 wins.
I'll say this. I'll just add this in. If this spiral continues, I think where you see an impact is on those weeknight games. The middle of the week, they're playing at 7 or 8. I'm not coming in. I'll just watch this one on TV. And I think that's where the erosion will happen. The students will be there. Students are incredible. They'll be there. They'll do their thing. And the locals will be there. Dancy Granny will be there. Because you can't miss now. She's got a job. And
did they put her on the Jumbotron last night? Okay, I missed that.
Yeah, that one's worn out for me. But anyhow, I just again, they better win at Oklahoma State to kind of get themselves going again and get themselves right.
Fake Patty, is that a home game this year?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know.
When they didn't have fake patties on February 29th in 2020, which would have been the most amazing leap day fake patties ever. Like there's like one opportunity that you can do it, and they didn't do it. That's the day fake patties died.
Oh, it died.
Yeah, I don't care.
It isn't the same, but I do think they should have more fake holidays. I'm on the record with this, and I think now you brought up the possibility that 3 out of 4 years you can have fake leap year on March 1st.
You could.
You're welcome, Aggie.
You could. Last question of the podcast.
All I was going to say was if it is a home game, like, if you're a student and K-State keeps losing, then maybe like, why would I want to go see this game when I can just go get drunk in Aggieville? That's maybe the only like real concern for me. But anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, last question of the podcast from K-Ned. Is it just me, or was that too odd or off-brand Jerome Tank press conferences in the last consecutive days? Apologizing to the commissioner, and then followed by things that happened and didn't have the team ready to play.
Oh, I mean, I think it goes back to Iowa State. I think Coach Tang, as a second-year head coach, has fallen into the trap of letting outside things distract him. He was upset about the Iowa State situation, but he thought he handled it personally. And unfortunately, it leaked out, not in the way Iowa State fans think, but it just got out because coaches talk to each other. And that kind of blew up. I thought it was going away, and Iowa State seems to want to perpetuate this, which is just odd. Yeah. And then you turn around with calling out a referee in a post-game press conference in Houston, which is not like him, but he was upset that I don't know what the ref said to Cam Carter, but he was pretty pissed. I don't know what it was. I mean, it was like, you don't say that to my player. You come say that to me. I think he's got himself a little bit distracted. And so when he says this loss is on me, I kind of wonder if he feels like I got to lock in better. I got too much of this outside noise going. I was critical of him for brandishing a sword in front of the media on his press conference Monday. And I thought, look, people are saying you're unstable, and now you brought a sword to a press conference, which is kind of funny. He was explaining his whole forged thing, and of course, Iowa State fans found offense to that too. But anyhow, you got to get locked back in on the basketball thing. Put this away. Let other people worry about it, which I honestly think he thought he had with Iowa State. I don't understand the press conference at Iowa State. Just say, look, we looked into it. Nothing there. We want to be clear. We're not doing this. But instead, it just gets amplified and blown up. And now we're still talking about Iowa State might be spying on huddles because Iowa State won't stop talking about it. It's just bizarre to me. There's some of the worst media handling of these situations going on right now with some of these coaches. But to Tang's credit, on Monday, he wouldn't touch it. And he did his apology. He shot down talking about Spygate and then just moved on. and he's got to do that. It's time to move on. Oklahoma State can be the only thing they're thinking about right now, period.
Only thing I'll say is I don't think Jerome Tang even knows the answer. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but I don't know if he is doing this sort of like consciously or subconsciously, right? Like, is he trying to make excuses or, maybe justify these losses in his mind, or is that I don't know. And deep down, I think only Jerome Tang knows that, or maybe he doesn't even know the answer to that. But I'm sure he's probably in his head a little bit with all the success and everything good that's gone on at Kansas State. You're in the midst of the worst 3-game stretch, bluntly put, of his entire head coaching career. And so I think he just maybe doesn't know how to deal with this, right? And that's not a knock on him, right? When everything's been going so smoothly and you hit a bump in the road, that's kind of natural. But I don't know. I don't know if this is like, I would love to just give him some truth serum and ask him, what's really going on here? Is this subconscious, or is this really, is this calculated? Because there is so much stuff that Jerome Tang does in the media that's calculated.
Okay. Can you buy that true serum on the Amazon?
I'm sure it's on TikTok shop.
Yeah, TikTok shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, some true serum. It's probably the real Chinese stuff too. But look, he needs to move on. He needs to get his team reset. They need to get back to the X's and O's. And the other layer here is, I think, word amongst the refs is Tang's kind of unhinged right now. I thought he was being very careful with how he interacted with officials against Oklahoma. I thought he was conscious of that. Officials it's a club. I mean, it's you against the world. And so they interact with each other. They work with each other. I mean, it's not the same set crews every time. And I'm sure the word's out. Jerome is calling us out, and let's teach him a lesson. That's how those things work. And I don't know that he got taught a lesson. I think his team was so ineffective for most of the game on Tuesday night that the referees didn't have to intervene in any way. They took care of it themselves.
Right.
I
mean, that's
it.
Go ahead.
Against Iowa State, like Jerry Pollard was the topic of discussion and all this and that. But I remember when Dorian Finister got elbowed and was bleeding from the mouth, there was no review or anything. Like right after that, there were 2 Tic Tac fouls called on Iowa State. And so Jerome Tang really didn't have much to say about the officiating, like from that game. I think it was maybe consistently annoying or poor or whatever, but it was consistent, right? So Jerome Tang isn't going to speak up on these things unless he views it, one-sided, like you mentioned that Cam Carter, exchange that he had with the referee. So I get it. Like, this is random, but the Jerry Pollard thing from Iowa State, when he looked away, like, yeah, we can say what we want about Pollard, but Tang didn't. The story of that game was not the officiating. It was the Iowa State huddle stuff. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm still bewildered why that play wasn't reviewed. It's disgusting it wasn't reviewed.
So
it was almost like Jerry Pollard knew he wasn't looking at the right place, and he didn't want to bring further attention to it. Because if you go review that, the whole world's going to look. The ref's not even looking at the court when this happened. He's looking into the crowd.
Yeah.
Just looking for cell phones filming.
Cell phones filming.
Well, Fran, I tweeted out a picture of Finister's, lip getting, I think Luke Sauber was treating him. And Fran had replied to my tweet and said that Jerome Tang could have called for a review. And the blood from Finister's mouth could have been enough to, like, by rule, the referees would have to look at it, right? But I don't know if Jerome Tang just missed it. I don't know if Pollard said, no, we're not doing that. I don't know the specifics on that, but I know that Tang could have had a chance to ask for a review. I don't know if he exercised that or not, but that's technically the right of the coach.
Okay. That's it for this edition of the Powercat Podcast. We got a little bit long, but so much to discuss. Not great stuff. I mean,
Gilbert gets fired up when there's hoops basketball.
I know.
Right? First half, I'm schedule this, schedule that. But boy, I'm on the edge of my seat here in the second half.
Yeah, that's skills. He's a pain in the. Anyhow, that's it for this week's edition. We appreciate you watching or listening, or if you were in on the sign language version. Zach, you got to learn sign language. It's a new thing.
No, thank you.
Yeah, that's it for the podcast. We're gonna go away. Thanks to the fridge. You guys are swell.
This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.